That sounds good, doesn't it? That's Maggie down at Crystal Palace as Everton get away with 3 points down in London. Thanks so much to her for sending us this as me and Pete go into a cracking win for Everton down at Crystal Palace. Post-match, Crystal Palace 2, Everton 3. What a magnificent victory for the Blues this afternoon. You think about every time that Crystal Palace equalised that things might have gone in a different direction against the Blues, but I think the performance today, the way everybody fought between themselves and kept themselves going forward in this game, epitomised the way in which Everton have started to turn into this season. Things are starting to look like they're turning for us, as much as it sounds like I'm tempting fate. I think it might be a night that I do tempt fate, because a magnificent 3-2 win down in London against a side that's really good, full of really good players. Tonight, they were the gang of cheeky bastards who decided to dive all over the place, but that's nonetheless. Pete McFarlane here once again. Pete was struggling to get our words out here, because that was an Everton win of tradition, I think. And people bang on about dogs of war and all that sort of thing. It obviously wasn't those specifics, but my word, was that a ticket to Sean Dyche's house.
Oh, I tell you what, anyone. I know that you said in the past that I've been too optimistic, or you've suggested that I'm too optimistic or positive.
You're entitled
I'll be honest,
to today.
Mate. I'm seeing the reason why I've stayed positive, and the reason why I haven't I haven't gone overboard when we had bad results early on in the season, is because I could see what he was trying to do, and we're starting to see the fruits of that labour now. We're starting to see the players come together. We're starting to see that battle and that fight that the players have, but also, into the composure that they've got as well, and also the fact that they, when they got it to 2-2, it would have been very easy for us to crumble there, but we didn't, and we kept going and kept going and kept fighting. The centre halves in particular, Branthwaite and Tarkowski, although you could say that Branthwaite was unlucky for their first goal to give away the penalty. I thought it was very soft myself. I think I've had to look back at it 20 times to see any contact whatsoever. But Branthwaite overall had a really tough job today, against Edouard, against Eze as well in particular. He was outstanding for Palace. I thought James Tarkowski as well handled himself well, but then he has that little bit of a brain fart for their second equaliser, where it seems to be a bit of miscommunication between him and Jordan Pickford. But as I say, those individual sort of errors, if you like, they didn't define our game in any way, shape or form. I thought the players were actually outstanding. They all stepped up. They all came there to fight. And I'd tell you something else as well. Those away fans, my word. I mean, you talk about, Crystal Palace they do have like that singing section, and they do have the big drums and all that sort of thing, and they do create a really good atmosphere. But I tell you what, those Evertonians absolutely outsang them from the first minute till the last. Absolutely incredible. And I tell you what, that type of atmosphere and that type of backing from the away fans, that helps the players so much, and you could see how much they were fighting right until the end. I love, also as well worth mentioning, I love James Garner giving that little snide Ayew a proper little kick at the end as well to take his booking. Love all that, mate. So yeah, they're a team. They are a team. They are a team who are very good offensively. I really do rate Palace going forward. But as you've sort of touched on, they're a team of snides, and I'm absolutely made up that we've come away from there with 3 points. Absolutely delighted.
There's a lot to unpack here from that first half, and I don't want to go through the whole 40-odd minutes of it. But when we go 1-0 up early on, I was wondering in particular how we go about this, because when you think we did that early on against Brighton last week, again, ironically, it was Mykolenko who scored the opening goal as well, really early on in the game. And against Brighton, and we banged on about this all week. Me and you, Pete, sound like a broken record about the possession, and we'll go through to that in a minute, actually, because the first thing it did when the game finished was check what the possession stats were today, because I think we're rocking a good roll here, aren't we, when we're talking about how much better we're doing when we have less of the ball. But in this one here, I was really intrigued to see how we go about the rest of this game, having scored an early goal. And you know what, when I see any game where a team goes ahead or goes behind early on, first few minutes, I do wonder how various managers go about sorting that thing out, because obviously you've got a different game plan that doesn't include, going behind or going in front after 5 minutes. And the first thing I thought might happen here was we're going to drop far too deep. But having said that, I think that, again, referring to what we've spoken about quite a lot, that plays into our hands a little bit. That we're much more comfortable when we drop a little bit further down the pitch. And the funny thing that when we've been referencing it quite a lot recently, and when it happened at Goodison last week, I think I remember saying this to you, that a lot of fans were fuming about it because it's not the Everton way we should be playing when we're at home. And my reference to that was, I don't think we'd have got a point out of that match if we'd have started trying to play opened out and trying to attack constantly against a side like Brighton. Today, excuse me, they're massive rivals, funnily enough, with it being Crystal Palace. I didn't think to that extent it'd be that way, because I don't think Crystal Palace are anywhere near as good as Brighton. But I thought when you're going to an away match, it's sort of the natural philosophy is that your opponent who are at home, they're going to have the majority of the ball, unless you're the top side, unless you're like a Man City that goes there. I think the majority of games you see most sides go away, and you haven't got anywhere near as much of the ball as you would do if you were at home yourselves. But I think what this week's proved, and not necessarily somebody who's positive, as any of our listeners over the years would absolutely say that that's me. But and I think there's a great irony in this, that when we're in these positions where we have to defend a lot more than we used to, or a lot more than we actually want to, it's when this Everton become better. It's when this Everton has started to gain a lot more points than if we went the other way.
Yeah, absolutely. And the other thing is what we're doing and what we're making sure of is we're frustrating the life out of the opposition. Because I'm this big advocate. I absolutely despise this style of football where people play the short ball out constantly from a goal kick and pass it across the back four and don't really make any progress with it. But then at the end of the game, they turn around and throw possession stats at me. I really couldn't care less, because it doesn't. You can't score from your own box. You can't. If you look at the stats in terms of how many actual chances are created from building up that way, I'd probably say it's more likely you're going to lose the ball in your own half than you are actually create a chance for yourself. I think that Everton, I think we got it spot on again today. Obviously, I mean, getting a late winner. I might have been saying a different story if we would have, conceded a late.
Do you know what, though, Pete? Just to interrupt you on that, had we not won that game, would you have felt that they were 2 points dropped?
Well, to be honest, I would have taken a point before the game, put it that way. I think when we're at 2-1, I thought we looked really comfortable at the back. And then we had that little, I'd say, brain fart moment from Tarkowski where there was a bit of miscommunication, it seemed, with Pickford, and the ball sort of dropped. But overall, I thought we defended really well. As I say, going back to the Palace players, they have some very dangerous players. Eze in particular, I think he's an absolutely incredible player. I think he's obviously got a bit of a snidey side to him as well, where I think he goes down very easily, but he's a very, very exciting and direct player. And he was the one who was causing us the most problems. Ayew as well, another player who I actually really rate. I think he's always caused us problems whenever we played against him. But yeah, I just think we got it right today. I really do. I thought Mykolenko as well, another fantastic performance from him. Not just his goal, not just the when we get the Doucouré's goal as well, where Mykolenko hits the post and it falls to Abdoulaye Doucouré to tap in. I thought Mykolenko dealt with Palace really well. I thought he was under a lot of pressure. Palace liked to get the ball out wide and liked to go at you direct. And I think we handled them really well. I thought it was a fantastic game of football, to be honest, Dave. And as I say, it wasn't just a case of two teams who were just going to try and play the ball, side to side. It was two teams going at each other, and I think that was something which I'm sure any neutrals watching would have enjoyed. Myself, any hair that I had left is all gone now. So
absolutely. Likewise with that, mate.
Serious,
I think that's
serious.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think that's spot on, that analysis of it. And yeah, I mean, when I was watching it, I was like, you talk about pulling your hair out. I was watching it thinking, this is a mad game, and we've seen a few of them recently. We've seen a few, that Chelsea Spurs game, on Monday. It was probably one of the most crazy games I've ever seen in Premier League history. And it feels as if that sort of caught on to a few matches I've seen since. Obviously, this wasn't like that, but it was played at a great pace as well. As soon as it started happening the way it did, I thought, do you know what? As long as we've got somebody up near Calvert-Lewin and we were able to play the ball down the channels, we weren't really effective to do that as much as we've done in this being our shape these days, and this is going to be our system. I think Sean Dyche would have been a little bit concerned at how Crystal Palace were able to get through on the wings and put crosses in. But then again, you know, you've got Tarkowski and Branthwaite in there. Interesting thing I want to talk about a little bit before we carry on is Branthwaite. Obviously, the pen given away, it's very, very dubious. I don't think it was a penalty, but obviously we're going to be biased about that. But yeah, it seriously would not think that that's a pen that you're giving away if it was us doing it at the other end of the pitch. And then the one where he gets out of it, where Eze comes back in from the byline and he sticks his foot out, Branthwaite, and he dives over his leg, and I was thinking, oh no, as soon as VAR see this, they're gonna give them another penalty here. But thankfully they didn't. Would you go as far? Because I think I would. This is one of his most, I'm not going to say his worst games. His toughest, one of his toughest games that I've seen in terms of the different ways he's had to defend here. Because yeah, towards the end of the game, they're just whipping crosses in. They're desperate to try and get score a header goal at the end of the game. But throughout, I thought there was a lot of different areas where he had to defend. I.e., when Eze's coming at him, when he has to bring himself out a little bit to try and put himself onto the attacking midfielders. But you know, by and large, he was absolutely fine. And maybe I'm picking this up a little bit too far here, but I obviously felt he was as good as we've seen him, and he has that sort of impact that he did. But in terms of what kind of game, I think he'll have gained a big education from the way the game was for him.
100%, and I think that's the thing as well. We've got to bear in mind with Jared Branthwaite is he's still only a very young player. He's still learning his trade, and this type of game today will stand them in good stead going forward because he has been tested and he's had a different kind of test. Like you say, it wasn't just a solitary target man. Obviously, Edouard, causes issues, if you like, with his physicality, but I think we can handle that very, not easily, but we've got the players there who can handle that sort of pressure. Eze's a different kind of pressure. He's very quick. He's very good with his feet. He'll run straight at you. Not too many players like that in the Premier League, to be honest with you. Outside of the top clubs, you don't really have too many players who will just stand you up and go toe to toe with you. So I think it was a really big test for Branthwaite today, and I think he adapted really well to it as well. I think as the game went on, he got more and more assured. I think he probably got a bit of a shock in the opening 5 or 10 minutes, but he adapted so well, and obviously with James Tarkowski next to him as well, sort of giving him a lot of guidance. I thought that the two of them were absolutely outstanding. And one thing I would say as well, Dave, is that when you look at that game today, that is the type of game that we would have lost last season or the season before, because our heads would have gone, we would have crumbled. And I think that's the biggest difference that I'm seeing in this Everton side now, that when we are under pressure, we're not just wilting under the pressure. We're not just giving away, we're not just like at 2-2, for example. I can guarantee you last season we would have lost 3-2 or 4-2. It would have happened because the heads would have dropped. The players would have almost had that feeling like they're going to concede. I don't get that feeling anymore with this Everton side that we're just going to crumble. I feel like that every single player now is fighting as a unit, and every single player is backing each other. Every single player is getting behind getting behind each other. I feel that we've got a proper team mentality now, and that's something that we've lacked for a number of years. I think it's not been helped the fact that we've had so many changes in management and in personnel. I think we kind of lost a bit of our core, if you like. We lost like that little bit of that lead, not just that leadership, but just enough players in there to know what it's about to play for Everton Football Club. And I feel like we're getting that back, and massive credit has got to go to Sean Dyche for that, because I think that was his biggest task and his biggest job when he came into Everton, was to try and instill that belief back into that squad and get their confidence up off the floor and get them fighting for one another and fighting for our badge. And I think that is something that we're seeing in abundance now. And as I say, in terms of the performance in particular from Jared Brantwaite today. I think he stepped up after a very, very tough opening 10 or 15 minutes. The lad just grew and grew and grew into the game, and he is one top talent. But if anyone's listening from any clubs, he's got bags of mistakes in him.
I said that with working the BBC to the chappers last week. I was like, why on earth are you talking about him on Match of the Day? None of us like him. We think he shouldn't be in the team, probably should be back in the 21s, just to try and push people away. But yeah, I think people are really certainly starting to get his eye now, aren't they, and see what he's all about. And there's various ways we can go with this now. And half time, and there's one man I need to mention because he probably or possibly turned out certainly as my man of the match. Who I didn't think for a long time I've either said it or considered it to be coming up. But Onana goes off at half time, clearly not 100% fit, otherwise he'd be staying on. Even though I thought he was quite quiet in the midfield, and we decided to go and put Idrissa Gueye on. And I think last week against Brighton, I was a little bit concerned that he came on. I think I was wrong. Most people that I spoke to, most people on who contact us on the pods and all that, have been saying no, he was fine. Idrissa Gueye when he came on, he actually improved things. This time he came on, and again, I don't know why I'm worried about him. Maybe it's just his size, because obviously he's a small lad. I always think when he's playing as a defensive midfield player, and he's in his mid-30s now, I'm thinking, is this him, going downhill in his career so late on? Nonetheless, mate, he come on today and couldn't have proved me more wrong. I thought when he came on, he broke everything up when it was in his position to do so. Everything he was doing when he had to drop a little bit deeper and he was on the edge of the box when corners and crosses came in, I thought he was in the best position that he could possibly be in. Won a lot of tackles, did everything the original Idrissa Gueye that we got. I say that it's obviously him, but years ago when we initially got him before he went away to PSG, and we were devastated when he left at that time. When he came back, I wasn't overly concerned that we got him. In fact, I thought it was a mistake that we got him, because he either wasn't going to play or not be up to scratch for the Premier League, given his couple of years away. Today, that was one of the best performances, certainly in 45 minutes, that I've ever seen from Idrissa Gueye. And that's not just because he went and scored a goal. I've put on my Twitter there, he hasn't had a shot or scored a goal in his Everton career, I don't think. And he decided to finish that like Erling Haaland in the last 5 minutes. It was a stunning finish, but he was brought on like he was last week. And again, from Dice, there's a lot of pragmatism about what he does anyway, but he's starting to have full faith in the squad, just as opposed to the first 11 that he puts on as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think one of the things that was crucial with Gana Gueye coming on at half time was when you've got so many players the Palace have. They're a team in particular who have a lot of players who will do that. They will run at you. They will stand you up and run straight through the middle at you. They've got players who've got a low sense of gravity, who are very quick on the feet, they're quick to move the ball around. And when you look at how the penalty came about, for example, we probably had 3 or 4 attempts or possibilities where we could have actually put a challenge in, and that challenge wasn't forthcoming. And I think when you come up against players like that, it's really tricky. What Idrissa does have in his favour is he also has a very low centre of gravity. I don't just mean he's short. I mean literally, like the way he holds himself, the way he is. He's that is one of his key attributes in being able to get in the way and to be able to get those tackles in, get those blocks in. And I think that it was a game where it was such a crucial change to make. Obviously, Onana, I'm assuming he would have picked up a knock, but Idrissa coming on really did help us. You did notice that Palace were forced more wide as the game went on as well, because they weren't getting as much luck in the middle as they had in the first half, where they were able to run on us more directly. I think Idrissa was a massive reason for that. They had to go out wide, and they had to rely on more so on their overlap and getting the ball out wide and trying to get the ball in the box that way, rather than direct running from the middle. And as I say, he is a player who will divide opinion. I think sometimes you can probably say he doesn't do enough on the ball. I think today he was just a very assured head in that midfield that we needed, alongside James Garner as well, who I thought was outstanding as well. So yeah, again, it's a squad game. You've got to be able to utilise your entire squad. You've got to keep these players fit. You've got to keep them all hungry, and when they come in, they've got to perform. And I think that's something that Sean Dyche will have with his players. I think he will let them know, if you get a chance, you've got to go in there and you've got to perform, because if you don't, you won't be playing the next game. And I think, again, that's another thing as well about this squad of players now. I feel like there is a unity within that squad, and I think that's such an important aspect of any squad of footballers. And a big part of that unity comes from the fact that you can trust everyone in that squad to come in and do a job. You're not panicking when certain players are coming on and you're thinking, oh God, we're gonna, they're gonna mess up. We've got a squad now where we can trust in these players. And as I say, massive credit to Sean Dyche as well for his man management, especially with Idrissa.
The other thing as well, a lot of us have been talking about is the substitutions. There was a lot of criticism last week for when he's making changes, i.e. when Ashley Young didn't go off until after 90 minutes when he decides to put young Patterson on there. Today, just looking at those reviews he's put, Gay on for Onana, as we've spoken about at half-time, you suspect that was going to be injury-based or fitness-based, or the fatigue that he might have for being injured for the last couple of weeks with Onana. So, that one's an assumption. And the other two subs that he makes is he takes off Calvert-Lewin, puts on Beto on 77. I want to talk about that firstly because, look, I think there's a there's a lot of people who I don't know, changing their initial opinion of when we got Beto in and the type of player we've got in, and the discussion we did with a lot of Italian journalists about him is that he doesn't have the best of first touches, but he will just run his socks off. I think that's what he did when he came on. But when he comes on at 77, I was happy with. I say happy. I was okay with it because, let's face it, Dominic Calvert-Lewin was barely in this game. He had maybe a dozen touches in the entire match. Obviously not his fault, because he's been defended. That Anderson who Palace have got I've always rated him as a top defender when he came over to them from Fulham. I was really surprised. He's a really good defender, and I think that's one of the things that we need to accept, as long as the possession that we've spoken about. But one of the things that I think that we need to sort of bite our tongues over a little bit is when you go to an away game and we're sort of moaning that nobody's near enough to Calvert-Lewin, and it's usually the corner who's up there near close to him. There was very little of that today. I felt sorry for Dom because we were playing the long balls up to him. We were playing the stereotypical Dyche stuff to him, and it wasn't working. We weren't able to hold the ball up. But the impressive thing for me was when we were able to turn, when we received the ball, it was going. We played through the midfield. It was played through the wingers. You know how many times I was looking on the left-hand side and Michalenko's there all the time on the edge of their 18-yard box looking for a 1-2 or looking to be a bit of backup, maybe to whip a ball in. And that's when, obviously, you want Dom to be effective when a cross is coming in and all that. It didn't work out for him today. But I think because we've all been raving with how fit he looks these days and, how energetic and, physical, it looks like the best we've ever seen of him. I hope I'm not, tempting fate there and he gets injured again. But when that happens and you see a striker who you're desperate to be the main goal scorer and look in the game, somebody who's going to be the closest to scoring a goal for you, I should say, you as a manager, you've got a really difficult decision to make, because you're looking at him and you're thinking, it doesn't look like he's knackered. I know he was in the last couple of games. He was knackered. Did everything he could for us and scored goals, more importantly for us. But then you get to a stage in a game where you think, do I keep our best player on especially when it's gone back to 2-2? Do I keep our striker on and take a risk here that, we're probably going to be happy with a point, like we both said at the start? Or do you just simply throw on Beto, who I said just a few minutes ago that he's not the best striker you're going to see, but control-wise, he's not going to see. But like I said, the one thing that he does do remarkably well and better than most others is run his socks off. He chases things that there's no chance of him getting. He's happy to do that for you. And I think Dice bringing him on at that particular time was a really pivotal part of what we ended up resulting in the end, because you've got somebody who will just run onto everything. And I think he was part of what happened with the winner that we got in the end, because he
Yeah.
made a separate run that was sort of on the side of Jessegay, and probably screaming himself for that ball to be played through like the Corey did. But when it was played through to Jessegay, he slots it, of course. What I'm saying is, look, I'm not trying to find things that says he's better than what he is, but for what you put him on for and the reason you do in that game is for, I don't get it, like maybe a little bit safer time in a game where you're going to be on your back foot and you need to put the ball forward and someone to stick with it. That's not Dom these days, because we want him forwards, we want him with his pace, we want him with his strength. With someone like Beto, he'll just run everyone down when the ball's knocked up there. And I felt that was an intelligent sub for Dice to do there, Pete. And the other thing as well was, well, I'm going to talk about him in a minute, but that with Beto was an intelligent substitution to throw on.
It was, yeah, and especially when we were sort of, we were a little bit camped in our own half, and you do need that outlet. And I think one of the things that's massively underappreciated in terms of, I think we've spoken about this time and time again about the importance of having a proper centre forward, and a proper centre forward, as in someone who's physical, someone who will occupy defenders, someone who can actually make a nuisance of themselves, rather than someone who can just get battered off with a little shoulder badge. Someone who's going to cause problems. Who's going to make defenders worry about where they are and about what they're doing. Someone who's not going to give them a moment's peace. And maybe, I'm assuming it got to the point where Dyche knew we had 13 or so minutes plus injury time. Probably knew there was going to be a lot of injury time. He knows he's going to need a lot of running in those final sort of 10 or 15 minutes from his centre forward. And I think it was an intelligent substitution. It made sense to me. Because as I say, if you've got someone like Beto, he can occupy 2 or 3 defenders at any given time. Whereas, the options that we've had in the past would struggle to occupy 1 defender. So I think it was, again, Dominic Calvert-Lewin in terms of maybe he had a quiet game in terms of, chances in front of goal. But I don't think there's any question about the actual impact he had on the game, just in terms of that constant nagging at the centre of the house of Crystal Palace. I think that, again, there's a lot to be said about the second ball. One of the things that's impressing me this season in particular is we are picking up that second ball so much more effectively than we have done for a number of years, a number of seasons, where we've got the likes of Jack Harrison, Dwight McNeil, even Mikalenko, as you said today, James Garner, Abdoulaye Doucouré. We're getting onto a lot more of those loose second balls, and that's by design. It's no fluke that those, like, if we go long, people tend to have this snobbery towards playing long balls. I actually think that that's the most effective way to get into the opponent's final third. I really do. I think it's effective as long as you treat it as not just the first ball, it's the second ball, which is crucial. It's occupying that defender so that they make a mistake and then you pounce. And I think that that's something that Calvert-Lewin did incredibly well today. And as you say, Palace in particular, they've got 2 very good centre halves as well, 2 very big, strong centre halves. But I thought that we still managed to cause them damage, especially from that second ball, from the knockdown. Even if we don't necessarily win the first ball, it's all about that second ball. And again, just the way the Dice has got us set up now, it's by design that we take advantage of that. And that's how we can get at teams as well.
I'm just looking at the starting 11 and, well, the 3 subs that actually came on there, and I'm thinking, most of the time you look at it and you think, well, he didn't play as well as somebody else, or he, there's a real sort of decision that you make on who's played better than others. But I'm looking at that entire lineup, which effectively was a 4-4-1-1. Like we keep saying, with Doucouré just behind them, the Calvert-Lewin. I can't look at any of those, and including the 3 subs that came on, that you probably would put down as even like a standard 6 out of 10, because, and this goes back, I think it emphasises what we said at the start, that this is a team playing for each other. and it's probably the hallmark of what a Sean Dyche side has done in the past. And look, it's an interesting philosophy we've been talking about again, mentioning it a little bit, and we'll probably go a little bit deeper into this, but you look back to his days at Burnley where it was there was a massive stereotype about him, wasn't it, the way in which he played. And I thought, oh, you don't want any of that, what he brings to Everton. But the one thing he did have at Burnley, and the reason why they were relatively successful when they were in the Premier League, is the way in which that team played for each other. And at Burnley, they didn't have any superstars in the 11 that he was putting out. Look, anyone who's listening to this who's not an Evertonian would say to us, "Yeah, well, that's exactly the same at Everton, isn't it? They haven't got they haven't got a good 11 out there." But what I'm seeing that's a little bit more of something that's gelling together a lot is that feeling that these lads are fighting for each other, that feeling that the managers set them up to fight with each other is really starting to come to the fore now, Pete. And I didn't expect it to happen given last year, given towards the end of the season and having to stay up like we have done for the past few years. I thought, I know this, if he keeps us up, then that might be him at the end. Start of the season when we lost our first three, I'm thinking, can't see him staying here long because we're going to need somebody else, somebody with a different philosophy. But right now, I've completely done a 180, and I'm thinking this is the exact type of manager we need because he's not asked about the amount of the ball we need. I say that quite extensively. He's obviously going to be bothered. He'd like us to have a bit more of the ball, of course. But when I'm seeing him now, he seems to have got to the right place with the right squad. And look, people might say you're going a bit too far there, Dave, because we're only 12 games into a Premier League season. We're just about to go to the international window as well, which this is absolutely ideal for, isn't it? Getting your players back, a little bit of a rest, all that sort of thing when we come back, and then we've got Manchester United at home, which I think now I would imagine most Evertonians are thinking, really can't wait for that. I want to see us at home against Man United and see what we can do. That'll be really interesting because of what's going on with them. But just to finish, Pete, the recent games we've had, if you were to go back maybe 3-4 weeks, I'd still be thinking, yeah, this is a no doubt this is going to be a relegation fight, and we're so lucky that the bottom three who've came up look like the weakest that have came up in a long time. Right now I'm sitting here, and I'm not trying to get too far above myself, but I think many people will be, given the last few. What we've won now 6 out of the last 9, I think, or something like that. It just feels a little bit nicer to be an Evertonian. I think that's the fairest way of putting it.
Yeah, and I think a huge part of that as well. Just as supporters, I think one of the main things that we've always wanted from our Everton sides is that fight and that determination, and people who are proud to wear our shirt. And I think that's the fundamentals. That's the very basic thing that you need to do as an Everton player, as an Everton manager. You need to instill that into the side about how important this football club is to the people around it. And as a supporter, I want to see that fight and that passion that I have for this club. I want to see that reflected on the pitch. And I think part of the problem that we've had over the past 4 to 5 years is that we lost our identity on that pitch. We lost that feel, and we lost that connection with the team. We lost that connection of knowing that the team were going to go out there and they weren't a team of bottlers. They weren't a team who were going to give up the fight. We lost that. And I feel that now, that, as I say, when I talk about the importance of Sean Dyche coming in, the biggest thing that he had to do was change the mentality of that squad. And he needed to drill into them. I know people are, some people almost use it as a stick to beat him with when he talks about hard work.
Yeah.
Well, that's the fundamentals. That's what I want to see. That's what I can accept being beaten. I know that sounds like a bit defeatist, but I can accept being beaten as long as we've given everything. And as long as we've gone out there and fought for every ball, every tackle, and every fan in that stand. And I feel like that's the Everton we're getting back now, and that's the Everton that I know and love, and that's the reason why I love this football club, and I will do till my dying breath. And I just, as I say, don't want to get too carried away, but that I'm starting to see that reflected in these players again, and that's something that I've sorely missed for a long time. So, yeah, I'm proud of them today. Put it that way.
Spot on that, mate. I think again, not going too far. We might well lose the next 5 games, but whilst it's here, and whilst
I'll be like that. I hate them all.
exactly, we'll be booing and shouting at them and swearing at them. But no doubt, as long as it is now, it looks like things are starting to get better. I think that's a fair thing to say right now, right? That's the end of post match here on Crystal Palace versus Everton.